Welcome to this week's episode of Campbell and Jones Meet the Monsters, the podcast where we chart the cinematic legacy of the classic monsters. I'm John Campbell. And with me, I forget, I don't introduce you. I do introduce you on this. With me, as always, is Brendan Jones.
Sorry, did you not get the revised script pages for this one, John?
I guess I didn't. I still have the... No, I do enough other shows where people go, I want to introduce myself, so I always forget about this one. With me, as always, is Brendan Jones.
Thank you, John. It's okay. I was just gonna wait. I
do like it was just an awkward look on the computer screen of like, But Brendan,
okay.
I'm glad we did introduce you because I do have some unfortunate news for you.
What's that?
I'm a vampire! I'm really panicked about it.
Dude, okay. We'll be talking about the reality and non-reality of a particular person's vampire transformation.
Oh my God.
But I will say, if any vampire transformation, even one that's just in your head, has anything to do with new Jennifer Beals lying on top of you, I think I would do it. I think I would go through it.
If there's been one running thing on this show, it is how quickly I could get on board with being a vampire. I think we've done multiple movies where I go like, I don't know, I kind of sign up for this.
This is wow. This week, wow.
I know this is one I've been waiting for, and also one that I did almost go like, should we cover this? Remember we were talking about that last week to give a little peek behind the scenes as I was going like, okay, I want to talk about this movie because we are talking about 1988's Vampire's Kiss, which does star the legendary Nicolas Cage. And that was why I'm like, that's why I was heading, because honestly, if this didn't star Nicolas Cage, I think I would have tossed it. I think we would have been like, but we have to talk about this performance because this movie is this performance, right? Like this is a movie entirely.
I will say the story here really is interesting. Mm-hmm. I mean, this movie is odd. It can't be pigeonholed. It's odd on purpose, but I think that it would have been worth watching, discussing, even if, because it is a riff on vampire mythology and a riff on classic horror films, as well as being a commentary on corporate New York of the 1980s and all kinds of stuff, yuppie culture and so forth. But it's its own thing, man. But yes, without this performance, this would have been even more of a cult oddity that people would go, oh, remember that? Oh yeah, that was interesting. This is an iconic cult film, because of an early shooting for the fucking stars performance by a young, still natural haired, that didn't last long.
And
Nicolas
great
Cage.
Hair though. I mean, great Nicolas Cage 80s hair.
Yes, but I will say you can totally tell that he is sculpting it carefully. He's grown it out in a way that is, I know I'm going to go bald, so this is the stylish young man's comb over kind of haircut.
It is. He carries this into the also, I feel like Wild at Heart is probably the last we get of this really look, which, oh my God, one of my favorite Nicolas Cage looks. Him in that snakeskin jacket. I love that movie, and I love.
But Raising Arizona to at least early Nicolas Cage when he still had his own hair, and I'll include Peggy Sue Got Married, but all these early performances.
That blonde pompadour in Peggy Sue Got Married is pretty awesome.
Yes, all of his early performances, hair actually plays a part. In Vampire's Kiss, it even though he has done this grow it out long but keep it tight, it allows him, as he's going crazy, that the control of it goes, and then it becomes part of his character. It's just like that shag weird, it just poofs out.
I think hair still does play a big part in his acting,
true.
But it's now it's wigs that play the part.
Now it's wigs.
But he does seem, and I have heard other actors, I think Willem Dafoe once said, like, once I get the hair for a character, then I feel like Cage comes from a similar boat, only now it's, what wig am I wearing?
Yes, that's true.
But because he always does, it feels like every movie he does have a different look, like a different hair.
Yeah. Very much so.
Yeah, like he is a guy I mean, look, we can't talk about Nicolas Cage without going into the whole of his mythos and and it's interesting you say this is early Nicolas Cage, and it is relatively early Nicolas Cage, but on the rise Nicolas Cage for sure.
On the rise, because what is he doing? Moonstruck at this exact same time, probably?
Yeah, Moonstruck, let's see. Moonstruck came out the year before, so 87.
Oh, the year before.
The year before. So he's already done 86 was Peggy Sue Got Married, 87 Raising Arizona, and Moonstruck in 87. Then this. And also, I just want to shout out, I think one of his most underrated performances and an underrated movie is 1984's Birdie. Which I think
Birdie's great.
I think
Birdie's great. Matthew Modine and Nicolas Cage and a two-hander.
Amazing in that movie. Yeah, Alan Parker film. Just not talked about enough. So I do
actually very true. At the time, it was a
very well
respected,
and
well received, but it does seem to have faded, and
it shouldn't. It's very good, and I think it is one of Cage's best performances, and kind of an understated Cage performance, a little bit more because Modine. It's interesting. You would think he'd want to play Birdie, Cage,
right?
Yeah, but he's actually playing the normal guy in it.
But it is proof, if any was needed, Nicolas Cage is an instinctive actor, a very fearless actor who has brilliant instincts, but odd instincts. But he is not the wild animal people think that he is, because if he knows the part needs it, he pulls back.
Well, and
even in the action films, where there's a wink of, but he can be like a quiet, understated, brooding or whatever. And Pig. I mean, look, the guy can do.
Oh my God,
can do whatever you need him to do.
When I saw Pig, I was like, I am so happy to see this movie and to know that he's still capable of that. Like that blew me away, and the fact he was not nominated for that is a crime. But the Academy is a mess, of course.
The Academy is a mess.
But I just
sums
thought
it all up.
If anyone who saw that didn't think that was one of the 5 best performances of that year, they were out of their minds. But it's just. But he was just saying he can do Pig, and then a couple years before that he can do Mandy, which is fucking unhinged. Although even that, there's a range, right? Because he starts very low and kind of romantic, and then builds to psychotic, violent energy. You know,
ladies and gentlemen, your two hosts here, they're Nicolas Cage fans.
Oh my God,
the guy is, as you said, a legend.
He is a legend, and I've said this before. It's like, I'm not willing to go so far as to say he is the best actor screen has had, but I will say he is maybe the most interesting leading man I've seen on screen. Like, he's just a guy where you just don't know what you're going to get when you go into a Cage movie, and that excites me. Actors like that are the people who excite me the most, where I'm like, I am excited to see what Cage is going to do next.
When he misses, which, I mean, every actor does.
Oh, yeah.
But when he takes a swing and it's wrong, it is still fascinating to watch.
I mean,
he's fascinating to watch in failure as well as success.
You look at those Ghost Rider movies are not good, but damn if that guy is not trying to do something with Ghost Rider. And honestly, the second one is a complete mess. The first one I find watchable purely because of his Johnny Blaze performance.
It is, as I've said before, one of the most fun times I've ever had in a movie theater, because my friends and I were on the same level, the same vibe, and I laughed myself silly. I loved how stupid it was, but it was stupid in a fun way.
It was. I actually, that's the thing where it's like I kind of have a soft spot for that first Ghost Rider in that capacity of a B superhero movie, and a guy who is giving it his all in said B superhero movie. And so that's the thing. It's why over on the Action Shelf we're doing a whole month of Nicolas Cage movies, because even in those straight to video things, god damn if he's not compelling. He's never checked out. He's always zeroed in and locked in on something. And oh boy, is he throwing everything he has at Vampire's Kiss. This is an actor slamming himself against the wall. Now, here's an interesting thing: is he got a lot of acclaim for Moonstruck, but he fucking hated himself in that movie. Very much on the record as hating that performance and not wanting to be in that kind of... Also, as great as Raising Arizona is, I know he struggled with the Coens because they are very... We wrote this, we have a very specific vision, and he is a very spontaneous actor who wants to work with directors, and he saw that. I mean, his comments on that is he felt very limited by Joel and Ethan Coen, even though, my God, that's one of his best performances.
I can see that. I hope he does not feel like that was a waste of his time.
I don't think that's the case.
It is an amazing performance and a great movie.
I think he was more frustrated in the moment, but I think now speaks because you can't argue the work. That I think that's one of those where maybe he felt frustrated, then saw it and went, "Oh, okay, I see what they were leading."
But also, I mean, this is also a gentleman who, and yes, Moonstruck was one of the big turning points of his career and got him so much acclaim. But this is a guy who, in a 2018 interview, so very recent, said that his favorite performance is the movie we're talking about today. A movie that bombed, a movie that was considered way too weird, that some critics did enjoy on its levels.
Yes.
But the crowds were not there for Vampire Kiss.
Oh no! No!
To move us onto the rails, I'm going to say that one of the reasons is how this thing was marketed. Because when we go to this poster, what movie are they trying to sell us, John? It is not this movie.
I don't understand this poster. This is a terrible poster.
It's a poster by a company that did not understand the movie. And that, of course, sucks. That their own product, they don't know.
I don't know how you don't lead with the image of him with the plastic fangs.
I know.
That's what I think.
Unless you wanted that to be a surprise bit in the movie.
I guess so, but that seems like that. Just Nicolas Cage with plastic fangs pitches you the tone of this movie.
This looks like, something they would have considered using for My Best Friend is a Vampire or Vamp or Once Bitten. They're going for the same sort of like romantic comedy vampire vibe.
Because, I mean,
so what you have is you've got...
Yeah. Oh, no, go ahead and check the image. I'll say...
You've got an overhead view of... There's a bit in the movie where instead of a coffin, and it is clever...
Oh, it's great. It's one of my favorite things.
He just turns over his leather sofa and turns it into like a temporary kind of sleeping arrangement.
And then there's that great moment when he lifts it up like the lid of a coffin. And a vampire. It's so fun. That's what I said.
And they've actually put in sound effects like wood creaking. And you're like, that's not what it would sound like, but it's great. So we have an overhead view of him poking out on the ground from underneath the leather sofa, and it's not vampire Nicolas Cage. It looks like delightful teen comedy Nicolas Cage.
He's right out of Valley Girl here.
His hair's all flipped out. He doesn't have fangs in. There's no blood on his mouth, and he's like, "Hey guys, what's up?"
It's me, Nicolas Cage, your favorite comedy star.
And then sitting on top of the overturned couch. We don't know. It's no doubt a photo model. It's not Jennifer Beals, I'm sure, but it's
supposed to mimic Jennifer Beals in the movie.
Yes, sexy lady legs underneath a skirt. So we just see sexy lady legs sitting on the couch that he is underneath.
Yeah,
and then we get in timeless prose.
Yeah, seduction, romance, murder, the things one does for love.
What the fuck movie are they trying to sell?
If I saw this poster, I go, oh, this is like a goofy romantic comedy where Nicolas Cage falls in love with a vampire.
Yep.
That's what I would think. Like. And I would go, I love Nicolas Cage, but I'll rent it,
Yeah.
He was so good in Moonstruck last year, but I don't know if this is what I want to see.
It actually might have had people going to the theater, but at the same time, those people would have left maybe before the movie was over.
I will also say,
this isn't what I want.
Looking at the release of this movie, it never got a wide release in America. It got limited release a year after it technically made its debut even. Because this is a 1988 movie, but it didn't truly even get a limited U.S. release till 89. We're counting it based on its debut in France, but technically this didn't see once again in a limited American release in 89. So let me talk about the movies that were coming out around the time.
Oh, by the way, I do want to say, Hey, congratulations, John. We finally made it to 88.
I know. I can't believe it.
After being trapped in 87 for so long.
Yeah, so this made its international debut in May of 1988. But I want to talk about what kept it out of American theaters. Let's say what you could have been seeing in May of 1988 at the movies. And let's see what you saw, Brendan. Let's see. All right, here we go. You could have seen Black Eagle with Jean-Claude Van Damme.
I did not.
You could have seen one I like. It's not like a great movie, but Shakedown with Peter Weller and Sam Elliott.
I saw that later on cable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a totally decent like buddy cop movie.
Yeah.
You could have seen Jack's Back with James Spader.
I did see that. Yes.
There you go. You could have seen talk about a buddy classic, Dead Heat, Treat Williams, Joe Piscopo.
I am proud to say I have never seen it.
Soon to be on the action shelf, that movie.
I would imagine that is perfect for you guys. Enjoy.
You could have seen Illegally Yours with Rob Lowe.
I didn't. No.
You could have seen Maniac Cop.
Years later on cable. The Maniac Cop series is a slightly recommended batshit insane bunch of stuff.
I mean, by the way, a lot of action shelf stuff is going to be on it because we are doing Maniac Cop upcoming. We're also doing Bulletproof with Gary Busey, which is the movie where he's one man with a tank fighting Mexico or something. I can't remember exactly what the plot of that is. Here's your big one. How about Crocodile Dundee 2?
No, until later on cable. Actually, the year what we're getting into now, though I know that our listeners don't give a flying, but at this point, I was in art school at this point, which meant I was starving to death in New York City. What's funny is this thing is taking place. Though of course it was filmed the year before I got there, but this New York that we're seeing in this is the New York that I was walking around in.
Oh, interesting.
Because 1988 early, I saw no movies because I was a starving art student. So
you didn't also catch another favorite of mine from this era, Willow.
No, HBO. I saw that. I didn't see it in the theater.
And then probably the big movie of that summer is Rambo 3.
Man, I did not see Rambo 3.
That's the one where he goes to Afghanistan, of course.
Yeah, that's the one where he's helping the Taliban.
Yes, he is helping the Taliban of 1988.
He didn't know. He didn't know.
We were all helping the Taliban back then. We loved to help the Taliban. No, it was cause. So yeah, so those are your movies of May of 1988 that people were going to, and not this.
Right.
Because like I said, this movie made, and I think I have this here, $2 million budget, worldwide gross $725,000. Yeah, I mean, it didn't get any kind of release or traction, really.
No,
and it's not.
It's interesting.
It's not
because
really a commercial movie. Let's be honest. It's not. This is not something that would appeal to a wide audience.
It would have only attracted people by the names of Nicolas Cage and Jennifer Beals.
By the way,
not that Elizabeth Ashley isn't great.
The next
but,
movie Jennifer Beals makes after The Bride, which we talked about.
Yeah, and this is. I mean, The Bride forced her into an embarrassing, childlike, weird performance.
Yeah.
She's good in this.
She's really good in this. I was like,
really good in this.
That's right. Jennifer Beals is good.
Right.
Don't love her hair in this. Don't love the big 80s hair.
No.
Not her best look for a very stunning woman. That's not.
And they went with an auburn tinge, which I think was them trying to suggest like red blood kind of thing, instead of her normal like jet black hair.
Yeah.
But what are you gonna do? She's still beautiful, and you could believe a psychotic gentleman might fixate on her.
Yeah. For sure. I mean, let's dive into this movie here, Brendan. I don't have any alternate taglines. They stuck with that one time. I don't think there was a big marketing push on this thing.
No.
We open with gothic shots of New York City and this kind of spooky music, right?
I actually thought the score was good because what they're doing
it's old vampire kind of score.
It's quasi-ironic, like dum bum 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 bum. It's kind of doing a Universal monster score.
Yeah. And so we open on Cage, as we'll see throughout the movie, in therapy with his therapist, Elizabeth Ashley, who's doing fine work here, as she always did. And right off the bat, we got to talk about the voice.
We do. And it's a thing that
this is an era of
actually
Nicolas Cage
until I
voices,
looked into the history of this movie went unexplained to me for years. I just thought it was a weird acting choice, and it is a weird acting choice, but his thinking behind it is now clear.
Well, that's the thing. I think when people talk about Nicolas Cage being like an over actor, it's like, I don't know. It's all very calculated. Like, the guy thinks about this stuff. And so it
is still jarring because it is so put on, and then you find out that his logic is it is a put on.
Yeah.
That this is a young, successful yuppie in New York who's trying to seem like a much richer, much more successful guy. So he's doing this sort of, oh man, I can't even, it's kind of a Californian thing.
It's sort of up here, right? It's kind of in this sort of range.
It's like, it's so interesting that you're saying that. And you're like, what are you doing?
Cage is from Southern California and has that tone just in his regular speaking voice, kind of, right? There's a little bit of a surfer guy in there. But
the surfer guy, but this is that sort of like
a California intellectual, right?
Yes, a tweedier California guy.
I did read that recent New Yorker article.
Yes, it's like, oh, that's very interesting.
Yeah.
And you're like, what are you doing? It is jarring.
This is an era,
and I wonder about his actors, his co-actors, having to look him in the face and do scenes with him. I can only imagine they're walking off going,
this is an era
I have no idea what
Cage
he's doing
voices, though, right? Because I feel like, starting with, holy God, his Peggy Sue Got Married performance.
Oh, yeah,
is
of course.
Truly. And I know.
The nasally, like,
bye, Peggy Sue. Which I know there are people who fucking hate that. I love it. Because
I love it because the whole thing is that he was only a small town version of like, I could go somewhere, big star guy,
right?
But he really was just a handsome dweeb,
right?
And that was the whole idea. He's a handsome dweeb.
When modern day middle-aged Peggy Sue goes back and is like, oh, this guy's like a loser, and so
exactly. I never really thought about it,
And so I thought once again, it's very calculated and purposeful.
You and I, we're bound together.
And then he's doing Southern and Raising Arizona, and then he's doing very kind of, hey, come on, sort of Brooklyn-y, guy in Moonstruck. So and then he's doing
here
this.
It's this weird thing about
intellectual man of I'm a literary editor, and I think about it
is so strange. Actually, it is a little bit. He's attempting kind of like a Connecticut or New England upper crust thing, but I don't think Nicholas really nailed it because the California keeps coming through. So it sounds a very odd mix.
But it works for the movie because it is this otherworldly, strange dude.
Already weird before things start really
one
escalating
could maybe
in his
see
life.
that a different actor would have played him more normal at the start and then had him descend. Nicolas Cage starts at an 11 and then takes it to like a 40 by the end of the movie.
It's true.
And
also, here's an interesting thing. There are different ways I think you could have played this to where it might have worked better, and there may be different ways you could have written or directed this that would have been more commercial. But they fearlessly, all of the people involved, including Nicolas Cage, decided, you're not going to like this guy. You're never going to like this guy.
Lord, no. Quite the opposite. I hate this guy.
He descends into tragic madness, but he was not a good guy to begin with. This is the nightmare boss situation from fucking hell.
So this is written by Joseph Minion, who just 2 years earlier wrote the classic Scorsese movie After Hours.
And it makes perfect sense when you think that this is written by the same guy. They both have a very weird feel, which is very specific New York, very specific sort of surreal layers of what is normal New York.
After Hours works a lot better and coheres a lot more, and I think because Scorsese's directing, Griffin Dunn, who we love, of course, on here.
But this Imagination, I looked at his career, and he worked, but it was like
he
very sporadic credits.
Pretty much, though,
And I sit there going, I wish there had been more movies made, because if nothing else, this was an interesting screenwriting voice.
Absolutely. I mean, like I said, I think what doesn't work here is more maybe in execution than in his screenplay.
Sure.
And I think a large parts of this movie do work. But then it's directed by Robert Bierman, who this is his directorial debut, and he directs a bunch of other stuff later, but I've seen
he goes on to
none
TV.
Of it. Yeah, I mean, even the TV though is pretty obscure. He works for it looks like he did a lot of stuff with the BBC. Like I know of The Bill and Inspector Lindley and Waking the Dead.
He did an episode of Murder in Suburbia, which I enjoyed. That was a nice British detective show.
Yeah. So he did that kind of stuff, but this was about it for movies for him. I
don't think it's badly directed. I think that the pacing is a little, but I mean, it's early in the man's career, but I'm like,
I think this movie has pacing, and I think it has huge tone problems.
Tone is interesting.
Tone problems. And I think this is a case where this was a director letting Nicolas Cage do what he wants, but he wasn't matching the rest of the movie to what Cage was doing. And I think that seems to be, I did read some of the reviews at the time, and I think one of the big complaints is the one I have about the movie, even though I do enjoy this movie for the most part.
Yeah.
But a lot of it is Cage, which is just like, the reviews were just like, what is this?
Yeah.
Is it a comedy? It is. It's clearly meant to be satirical. It's interesting that in the trivia they mentioned that Christian Bale looked at this movie as reference for American Psycho, and when I read that I went, oh, American Psycho is the better version of this movie, actually. Like, it does get to the same satirical stuff, but the tone is much clearer.
It's true, because the entire world of American Psycho is operating on the same page, whereas this is almost just plain New York, to the extent that, as you probably read in the notes on it, I love the fact that it was a non-union shoot, and they didn't have clearance to shoot on the streets. So the street reactions of people to crazy Nicolas Cage are real people on the street reacting to a crazy man.
I think that really works. I wish there was more stuff like that. I'll tell you what doesn't work for me about this movie is, and I don't have anything against her, is Maria Conchita Alonso's character.
The problem is that there's the darkness of the office scenes, which they have a built-in surrealness, because the only thing that we see of his job is set up around this one stupid author request that becomes this big deal, and then becomes not even a big deal. It becomes a torture device for his subordinate that takes on. If you ever saw Joe versus the Volcano, or if you've ever, or even Office Space, this is weird corporate comedy where it's taking something small, niggling, non-essential, and blowing it into this huge dramatic thing, but for satirical purposes. But the cruel edge of it that she's reacting to as a real in quotes person. She suffers, and she's playing it straight, as in, your heart's breaking for this woman.
No, because she's. I mean, I enjoy Maria Conchita Alonso. I think she's almost too good in this, or something like that. She's playing it real. Yeah, and
that's the problem.
That it makes it go like, I'm not having fun. This is
you don't have fun with it at all. You should maybe be laughing at it, because it is so fucking weird of him constantly berating her and calling her into his office and paging for her and all that.
This is, I think, maybe where some of that is. I can't tell if this is an execution or in script. It doesn't pair with the vampire stuff to me very well.
It's only there to show a slide into madness.
But he already was an ass to her.
He was already an ass. He was already eccentric, and then he just gets worse.
Yeah.
But a lot of time is given over to it, primarily because it will lead to the ending.
Well, that's the thing. When especially sequences where we're just with her, and she's like, "I can't go into that office. I can't."
It's traumatic. So it takes you.
Yeah, it is just going like, I don't like this movie.
It's too real.
Yeah.
Because at that point, if it was done as like anything else, then also, so the darkness here isn't really about what's happening to him on the vampire level. The darkness is like, oh, we're trying to accept that in an actual universe, a real world.
I mean, look,
where anyone would have quit that job a long time ago.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm not here to fix this movie, but I do nothing but that on this show. So let me. Wouldn't it be? I think if you had tied the vampire stuff in more, and it's about his put upon assistant now having to deal with his insane requests about blacking out his office, and I don't know, like that, and that kind of stuff, or something like that.
If it was more closely tied in, it would help a little bit.
Like I want this to be more of a vampire movie. Yeah.
If the cruelty was directed at her as a result of his slide into madness, instead of always having been there, only now getting worse.
Right, yeah. He just gets
more wow.
He just gets more manic.
If he had just been a boring boss or just a pretentious boss.
Well, lean into the fake intellectual thing even, right? I mean, Cage is doing that in his performance, but
have her be smarter than him.
Right, and it's sort of like she's this underling and he's this pretend intellectual who is, shown up a few times for not knowing what the fuck he's talking about. That would work. Like I said,
she is such a victim all the way through that it's very uncomfortable.
And that's, I think, firmly where I get where the critics are going, like, particularly her stuff, going like, am I supposed to laugh at this movie? I don't know, because Cage is giving a broad doesn't even begin to cover it performance.
Nope.
Like, he is giving a full-on cartoon performance.
Dude, I can only look at that a very famous scene of him when he's berating her and the seamless jump onto the desk and then pointing at her.
Yeah.
And I'm going, I mean, he's always been a brilliant physical actor as well. Absolutely. And I just look at that going, I wish I could move like that.
Yep.
Now, I wouldn't use it in the same fashion, which is he's doing it to intimidate someone, but you're looking at a human cartoon.
Yes.
I mean, Jim Carrey could obviously do something very similar and
it's
has
interesting
in different
that
movies.
those guys are like best friends in real life because they do have a similar energy that they use in different capacities and for different reasons. But, and actually, I learned this from the Age of Cage book that just came out, which I highly recommend people check out. Keith Phipps' book, Age of Cage, that Carrey really wanted Cage to co-star with him in Dumb and Dumber. That was
damn.
I mean, obviously Jeff Daniels does an amazing job in that movie, but still, that Carrey read that script and said, "It's you and me, Nick."
They need to do something together before they pass away.
I know. I mean, they going back to Peggy Sue Got Married. That's where they met, and that was an early Jim Carrey role in that. But yeah, I would love to see them co-headline a film because their two energies the screen would just light on fire, I think.
It probably would. I'm not sure either guy. No, actually, they're in better shape than I'll ever be. I'm sure they could both probably still leap onto a desk.
Yeah, man. I mean, I just saw Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, the new Cage movie. He's looking good.
Good.
Yeah, I mean, he's not in Ghost Rider shape, but which I did
and never will be again.
I know he did talk about it. He goes, I worked my ass off, and everybody said, what are those abs CGI? He goes, at that point I realized I don't ever need to do that again. If nobody's gonna believe I really got in that kind of shape, what the fuck is the point?
I would have asked him gently, because I respect the man, but I would have said, why would you do that? You know, the character traditionally, iconically, is just always in leather.
Yeah.
A jacket. If you're in decent enough shape, no one will ever know.
Right.
If you just want that one scene where, Johnny Blaze takes off his shirt so everyone can see your abs, I guess I get it.
That just feels like that's what you have to do as a superhero, unfortunately.
It's true. Ant-Man is not like a guy who goes around showing off his six-pack, but you got Paul Rudd
You get the one scene, though, where he's got his abs out. Yeah. I mean, honestly, I think peak physical Cage, of course, is what I end up talking about on this show. Con Air, man. He is
Con Air.
He is badass in that movie.
God.
Yeah, he is awesome. And put the bunny back in the box. Speaking of Cage accents, his Alabama guy in that is really something. And also speaking of hair,
it is a cartoon, and then you realize, oh, the man is always a cartoon.
Well, but that's one and this will bring us back to Vampires Kids. That is one where the movie does match the performance, because that movie is a cartoon, and I love Con Air. That movie is so much fun, and everybody is giving that level of performance in the movie.
Yes, everyone knows they are in a stupid but fun cartoon
because Malkovich is way out there in that thing.
Yep,
and it's great. Cyrus the Virus likes to claim he's killed more men than cancer.
Okay, stop it.
All right, I've seen that movie a lot. Okay. So we transition from this to him hitting on a woman in a bar, and this poor woman who he's awful to throughout the movie as well is future acclaimed director Cassie Lemons.
I know.
I love her movies, man. I love Eve's Bayou. And I think Caveman's Valentine didn't get enough credit. I like that too.
Yeah, I mean, it's not performance.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a hokey.
It is, but I actually really like her movie Talk to Me, which nobody talked about.
I'm not sure I saw Talk to Me.
It's Don Cheadle and Chiwetel Ejiofor. It's about, as I said, the true story of Washington, D.C. radio personality Petey Greene, an ex-con who became a popular talk show host and activist in the 60s. Really good, weird, little kind of forgotten true story set during the civil rights stuff. Highly recommend it. Great Don Cheadle performance.
I will check that out because Cheadle and how do you pronounce his name?
Chiwetel Ejiofor.
Chiwetel Ejiofor is that guy. He's effortlessly magnetic.
Oh, he's just incredible. Yeah, he's definitely a guy who, if I see his name, I go, okay, I gotta check this out. It's gonna be worth it to see what he's doing. And also, speaking of I love a superhero, she did direct on Luke Cage.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I think that, again, this is a thankless part.
It is.
But at the same time, I really liked her in it. I thought she was doing good work.
Oh, interesting.
And she's very cute in the late 80s fashion.
She is.
I was like, oh, she's a face of that time, and she works.
It's unfortunate because I did really like her, and I'm just like, oh, I know he's gonna treat you like shit throughout this movie,
and he does.
Yeah,
by the way, she survives.
Yes, I was glad she got out before any of that stuff. She also, at least as of the recording of this, it probably won't come out. It will already have long been out. She has her new movie come out, which is the biopic about Whitney Houston that she just directed. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah, which will be interesting.
That could go either very right or very wrong.
Absolutely, yeah. I will be curious, though, because certainly a very interesting woman.
Yeah.
There's no question about that. So, Stanley Tucci plays Clive Davis in it. I'm in.
They got your vote.
I love the Tooch, man. He's another guy I'll watch in pretty much anything. So, love that guy.
He is a beloved figure.
Yeah, he is great. So anyway, it is sort of. I'm just going like, wow, Cassie Lemons. I love you as a director, and I certainly did know she had done acting prior to turning to filmmaking. She's in Silence of the Lambs.
Yes.
Yeah, she's in Silence of the Lambs. And what is I just was watching? Isn't she in? Yes, she's in John Woo's Hard Target. Yeah, I was just watching that. We were just watching that for the action shelf, and there she is.
Well, here she is very much in the mode of, and they, again, for this movie, they do a fine version of the same kind of New York scene that was being, obviously American Psycho, written by Brat Pack author,
Bret Easton Ellis.
So this is that clubbing yuppie scene of New York, the same that Tama Janowitz wrote about, Slaves of New York and all that sort of thing.
Bright Lights, Big City.
Yeah, so you definitely have like Nicolas Cage as an up-and-comer, and these club scenes feel very on point for the period, and she's clearly someone in the art scene.
Yes.
And he hits on her, and they go to his place, instant hookup. Things are going well, I guess.
Seems to be the story of this guy's life based on what we see in this movie. I guess young Nicolas Cage. I texted my sister as I was watching this yesterday because she's always been somebody who's had many a crush on actors. I just go, hey, Nicolas Cage, handsome? ? And she goes, he's not ugly.
I would say that
he is unconventionally. He is handsome, but
he is unconventional, and it is about personality going a long way.
I think it's
a big part of his appeal.
Yeah, I think it's similar to when I hear women talk about Adrian Brody being handsome, and I'm like, yeah, I can see it. Yeah, but it's not immediately.
And it has a lot more to do with the way he holds himself.
These aren't going to be guys,
and he's got great eyes.
But I'm thinking of the contemporaries that Cage is at the time. Your Rob Lowe's,
he's not in the same category.
Costner's.
Even then, he was considered oddly attractive.
Tom Cruise's. Yeah, this is not that. He's not that guy. Even though, I mean, he goes on to be a leading man and a romantic leading man. And, I mean, I think he's considered very hot in Moonstruck.
I'd say as the Coppolas go, he's one of the attractive ones.
I agree. Yeah.
But anyway, so they're making out. They're having a good time, and wouldn't you know it, a big old bat flies in the window.
And it is the first of about 7 iconic Cage line deliveries when he just goes, "Shoo."
yeah. Well, the woman who deserves, I mean, since we know her so well, what's her character name?
Cassie Lemon's playing Jackie.
Jackie.
I actually don't even remember them ever saying her name, but
he does. When he calls her later to apologize and so forth.
Yeah.
Because she is a continuing character. She's not just a one-night hookup. But anyway, she freaks out, understandably. But he's trying to be like, don't go. It's okay. I'll take care of it. And he's trying to shoo the bat out of his apartment.
Get out of here, bat. Yeah, like it is.
He actually sees the bat and he says, that's it. I will become a bat. Criminals are a cowardly, superstitious lot.
Hey, man. Nicolas Cage is as into comic books as a human being can be. So
but boy, would he make a terrible looking Batman. Sorry,
hey,
people.
man, but he's on the record. Anytime Warner Bros. Wants to call about Superman, he's still open to it. He said,
"Okay,
anytime."
Well, maybe a Jor-El.
Anyway, actually, he'd be an interesting Jor-El. I could kind of see that.
You'd have to have a super hot Laura only to explain how you'd get a perfectly handsome man.
Get Jennifer Beals. Reteam them.
Who?
Get Jennifer Beals from this.
Oh,
if
man.
If they were Jor-El
again,
and Laura.
We've said it before. We'll say it again. Jennifer Beals is immortal and as beautiful today.
Dude, I watch her every week on Law and Order: Organized Crime, which she's on right now, and still. Just
unbelievable.
I mean, she's more attractive than the young characters on that show.
Those genetics, I don't know, man. But anyway, regardless.
Yeah.
So this is where we've set it up. So is this where the idea is planted because a bat flies in? But regardless, he's not able to shoo it out. So he and the girlfriend take out. They run out of the apartment. Talking about
this movie as a narrative is tough.
It is kind of tough.
Yeah, it is. It is very much a character piece. It is very much a mood piece. It is more thematic than it is narrative driven, I feel like.
We do well, we're spending a lot of time with our central character where we later on discover that we've spent a lot of time in his imagination or his mind, his craziness.
Yeah.
So it's possible that a person who's about to have a schizophrenic break sees a bat and then dates a woman who might have nibbled on his neck, or not dates, but he hooks up with a woman who nibbles on his neck later, and that plants in his brain, I must now be a vampire. That is basically the plot.
He isn't a vampire, right? I mean, that's the way to read
it's just
this,
in his
right?
mind.
Yeah, it's got to be. I mean, I know that there's sort of this vagaries of maybe.
No,
it's
by the time
watching
he does run into Jennifer Beals at the end, and she's like, "Oh, your name is Peter, right?"
Right. Yeah,
and she's clearly freaked by him.
Yeah.
It's like, it's all imaginary. The whole.
I will say, Jennifer Beals is a vampire. Much better casting than Jennifer Beals as a Bride of Frankenstein.
Yeah,
like she has the exotic, seductive looks of a vampire.
Yeah,
and you can see like her performance as we talk. It's night and day compared to what she's doing in The Bride, and a lot of that is material. We know she's a talented woman.
Yes.
We know she gets better as time goes along, but it's not no time has passed almost between this and The Bride, and we can see how much better she is in this because she just fits.
It is about the part she was given. I mean, she could have been a fine Bride of Frankenstein and good.
We talked about this you talk about the modernity of an actor. Jennifer Beals doesn't fit in that. Neither does Sting, really.
I will say Jennifer Beals, part of her classic beauty, you could go farther back. I mean, she's someone that you could see in ancient Greece or something like that.
Or, I don't know, maybe a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, too.
Quite possible. Jennifer Beals, here's something for the comics fans that they didn't ask for. But the run post George Perez on Wonder Woman, when you had Jill Thompson drawing Wonder Woman.
Yes, love the Jill Thompson stuff.
Jill Thompson's art, she does curly hair a lot.
She does?
And her Wonder Woman, I mean, it was Jennifer Beals. And all I could think was, man, time should have caught up, because a Jennifer Beals Wonder Woman, perfect.
Did you read Jill Thompson's graphic novel, The True Amazon?
Yes, it was delicious.
It was wonderful.
By that, it was what I wanted, because Wonder Woman's a character that everyone seems to have a hot take on. And every now and then someone gets what I want, like a classic core version of the character.
That just blew me away, and her art, of course, is absolutely stunning. And I'm looking at a picture of Jill Thompson with big curly hair.
Yeah,
so,
I think she's one of those who kind of
modeling herself on or Wonder Woman herself a little bit.
Well, it's just like, again, we were talking about Matt Wagner earlier. Yeah. Matt Wagner's Mage is just him.
It's Matt Wagner, yeah. And then when Mage's son got introduced later in the comics, it's just It's just his son Brennan. And going like, I know. I'm literally reading it, going, I know these people.
We have to get back to this movie.
Yes, we do. Okay, so after that, we cut back to he calls in Alva, is who Maria Conchita Alonso is, his secretary, assistant. What is she?
Yeah, I think she's his executive assistant. Yeah. And when we see this office, by the way, he is a literary agent. The office is supposed to, I think, blow the cover off of his high and mighty status. I think he's probably mid-level or below as an agency, because it's not really that fancy of an office. But anyway, he treats his executive assistant like crap. Her name is Alva, and he always shouts for...
They zoom in on the fact that she notices he's not wearing socks.
Yeah.
Okay, here's what I don't understand about that.
Well, that's because...
Is that meant to be odd? Or is that meant to be... Because it was cool at the time, the Don Johnson, no socks.
No, you missed it. You missed it entirely. That's a direct tie-in to the fact that they ran out of his apartment, barely clothed, went to the girl's place, and now it's the next morning.
Gotcha.
And so when he goes back to the apartment after work... Yeah. He actually picks up his sock that he had left behind.
That's right.
That he had like thrown at the bat.
That's right, he does. But just when I see 80s and no socks, I think Miami Vice.
No, that's true. It was kind of a thing.
But now that you say that, I'm like, no, it was the whole thing. And
you would wear like docksiders, or you'd wear topsiders, and you'd wear
like boat
loafers
shoes
without
loafers
socks,
or
and
that
it'd
kind
be
of thing. Yeah,
a yuppie thing.
Yeah.
But in this case, it actually had a plot reason that she looked at it.
And so he goes, I need you to find this, contract from this old author back in the day. And I've already looked for it and couldn't find it. You need to find... And this sets the seed for what's going to be a growing insanity throughout the movie.
He actually starts it off fairly like, it's an eccentric request by this guy. It's going to be a lot of work. But we have to keep our clients happy. This is the way it starts. And then later it'll be like, we're going to lose that client if you don't find it. And you've got 7 days. Oh my God. If I have to take a phone call from him, this company's going to go. He just keeps escalating it.
Yeah.
Even past the time we find out that it's not.
Because it's like the second or third time we talk about it, that the guy's on the phone going like, it's no big deal. No time on that. Just find it when you can.
Well, that's actually kind of a great scene, because Alva's in the office and he's trying to play it like, holy shit, this guy is going to tear me a new asshole. But we can hear the author going, I know it's a goofy thing. Take your time. It's no big deal. And whenever you find it, let me know.
Yeah.
And then he hangs up. He's like going, I barely got a word in edgewise. That guy threatened to leave if we don't find that contract.
Right.
He's an asshole, this Peter Lowe. Peter Lowe is the name of Nicolas Cage's character.
Yeah. But we also get in this first scene, so she goes out, she goes, I'll try to find it. And we get the first of these several things, which is this running thing in the way where he sees couples, and he sees these people kissing down at a hot dog stand. And there is this, everything is a little half-cooked in this movie. And I feel like this is a thing where, like, some of his whole thing is driven by, I just want to be in love,
Well, that's what we find out in his subconscious when he has his imaginary talk with his therapist at the end.
It's wild. Like I said, though, but everything in this movie is so wild, but not a lot of it is landing or having much impact.
Yeah, it's true.
The movie's so weird
Because the first thing we hear him talking to his therapist in a real life session at the very beginning of the movie is him talking about, she goes, so this girl you like and you got her in bed, and he's like, yeah, and then the next morning I just didn't want anything to do with her.
Yeah.
And that's weird, right? And so he's basically the two things this character who's about to lose his mind he gets fixated on is, I've got to find true love, and I think I'm now a vampire.
Yeah. Once again, I'm not sure all the
they
ingredients
don't land. You're
that
right.
Make a meal. Like, it's kind of the thing where you're going like, oh, everything here, and it's just like, maybe you should have fixated on one thread and then carried that through the movie a little bit more and tied, because it is a themes first movie, but it has like 5 themes and they don't quite interact enough. It's kind of, that's my biggest issue with it. And this, and I felt that way when I saw it before too. I just remember this is a movie I'm more intrigued by than really like engaging with. I'm more just like, well, this is weird. This is interesting.
Yeah.
I'm never like bored. I'm always going like, oh, this is strange. But
well, again, you're carried aloft by, if nothing else, if the plot's not working for you or dialogue, you're just watching Cage.
Yeah. But that is the thing. When I saw the American Psycho thing, I go like, oh yes, because I love American Psycho. It's great. And I'm going like, yes, that's the one where everything is working together and as a movie, which we won't get to because it's not a monster movie, but it's great. So let's see. Yeah. So he. Then when he goes back to the therapist, this is when he's talking about, I was aroused when I was fighting that bat.
Yeah, this is weird.
Yeah, and she
goes, oh, it's because you were aroused. Like you were just making out with that woman. And he goes, yeah, but no, it was even more aroused when I suddenly was fighting the bat.
I was like kind of hard, and then I was really hard when the bat came in. That like sent me to the whatever, man. And he's like, I don't know. And Elizabeth Ashley does what she can. She doesn't have a ton to do in this movie.
She doesn't have a ton to do, and I do think she's pretty bad therapist, but regardless.
Yeah. So anyway, Cage goes out with his friends, one of whom, oh my God, I didn't expect this. Little baby John Michael Higgins.
I know. He was right there, and I like, didn't know that either.
I love John Michael Higgins. That guy's fucking hilarious.
And there's another surprise later in the movie. A couple of people that I was like, yeah. You had David Hyde Pierce, and Amy Stiller. As theater guy and theater woman.
Yeah,
I was like, what the hell?
Yeah, great.
But yes, for half a second, you have John Michael Higgins, young,
really
playing
early.
Another yuppie type in the bar.
Also, one of the other yuppies here is Mark Coppola.
Yeah, he's the one walking by with the woman, and he's telling a joke about raise high the roof beam.
Yeah.
So it's supposed to be like, I'm making a J.D. Salinger literary joke because we're a pretentious New Yorkers.
I'm looking at this guy's film career, Mark Coppola.
Yeah.
Most of his movies seem to involve other people with the last name Coppola.
Huh. Well, that's a weird coincidence.
Apocalypse Now, The Cotton Club. Jack, and then he makes a switch to The Bling Ring and stuff directed by Sofia Coppola, and yes. And
nice work if you can get it.
Yeah, I know it is. So, which I know is so much. Once again, reading that book was so much something Cage really wanted to avoid, was being seen as that, because apparently on Fast Times at Ridgemont High. Noted asshole. I've heard many a story about Eric Stoltz, I guess, was on his ass about being Nicolas Coppola, and that's why he changed his name. Because he's just like, whatever, man, you're just Coppola's nephew. Fuck you, man.
That is.
And it is kind of like, and Eric Stoltz is where now?
Oh, come on.
I'm just saying, I have heard there's several stories about Stoltz being a dick, and I think that may have cost him current work. Talented dude. Always liked him, but... yeah, I think sometimes if you're that much of an asshole for that long, it's like, yeah, we don't really need to put you in this movie.
Yeah, man. We don't want to actually deal with you. But this joke that he hears is his. He overhears his cousin or brother.
It's his brother. And if you look at the guy, he
joke.
looks kind of like Nick.
And it allows him to slide into a booth right next to Jennifer Beals' character.
Yes.
And he goes, "Did you even understand that joke?" And she's like, "No."
Yeah. Cut to these two are now heading to his bedroom. God damn. Peter Lowe moves fast.
He moves very fast. And this is where his life takes a big turn, because she's going to town on him and then starts chawing on his neck. And he's like, oh no.
But then he's like, oh, yes.
Yeah.
Also, this is mentioned in the goofs, and you can't not notice it. The very clear nipple patches on Jennifer Beals in this.
On Nicolas Cage.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was weird. That
I
Nicolas
don't ever
Cage
show my nipples in a movie.
I respect her for this. She started her career in many a sexy part, and she basically said, no.
Yeah.
I mean, you can use camera trickery.
I have no issue with that. The problem is this guy doesn't use camera trickery. Usually you try to avoid actually showing the nipple patches.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe that you don't see that too often. That's not
She is topless in panties, writhing on him, but she writhes on him enough that the camera can't avoid, or chooses not to avoid, showing the fact that, she's clearly got nipple pasties on.
Yeah. And they're big. They're covering like the whole breast, so they're really evident. Weird. Yeah, it's just weird. It's just a weird mistake, and it happens twice, because there's another sex scene with her where the same thing happens, and I'm just going, how is no one looking through the camera and seeing this?
The second sex scene, I believe, is completely imaginary, because it's staged the exact same, and
but
he's
I like
wearing
that
the same
still,
clothes. But
he's still like, even in my imagination, you don't see her nipples.
He's like, I never got to see him.
Yeah. That's once again, I said that's fine from a movie standpoint, but hide it. Good Lord.
Yeah, hide it.
For the love of God. Come on, man.
She should have just used black tape, like what is it, Phoebe Cates did in that movie she made. No, it was was it Phoebe Cates? Was it in Paradise? Or was it
Paradise.
Yeah, it was in Paradise.
Yeah.
Which is the Blue Lagoon knockoff that Phoebe Cates made.
I love the idea that was like Blue Lagoon was a type of movie for a bit.
No, wait, she's actually naked in that one, but it was in another one of her early movies, and they wanted to film her naked in a love scene.
They always wanted to film Phoebe Cates naked. That's
of course,
which is.
But she said, "Well, I'm not going to do it." So she put black tape on.
Yeah.
Since it wasn't flesh colored like these patches, they had to shoot around it because it was so obvious.
Right.
Big straps of black tape, and they're like, "Well done, Phoebe. Well done.
Yeah.
We didn't get the shots. Yeah. Whatever."
You got us this time.
You got us this time, Cates.
I see how it is. Well, and this is certainly the era of gratuitous nudity. So, the fact that
this was an R-rated film too. This wasn't them like, let's see what we can get away with. They're like, no, it's just, we're gonna do kind of.
I have a lot of respect for her just being like, I am happy to be the sexy actress, but there's just some limits I don't want to cross here.
Yeah. I'm not sure if she ever got naked.
I don't.
I mean she was on the L for so long, but I don't think she ever got naked there.
I never watched it, so I couldn't tell you.
I tried, but it was very just soap opera-y, and I'm like, I'm glad that the LGBTQ
that's how
community
I felt.
has this.
Both that and Queer as Folk had nothing to do with the fact they were gay things. It was just like, this is just not a show I want to watch. Either one.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're just not I don't like that sort of melodrama kind of stuff. So anyway, so they go back there. She bites him. And then throughout the rest of the movie, pretty much, he's wearing this bandage on his neck, which becomes part of his whole look here. Because when he does get up, makes her coffee, and then she's just not there in the morning.
But then he does a weird take here where
his hand just starts shaking with the coffee mug in it.
From the kitchen to the bedroom, he's talking to her, and then he gets in, and you would imagine that. I mean, why isn't he looking towards the bed? So he doesn't even know she's not there until he sits down and then offers coffee to no one there, and then his hand does this big quake.
It's so weird. I would also think you might notice just waking up in the bed that there's not another person next to you.
Yeah, you might.
That's not a subtle thing. I'm not like, oh Jesus, there's another person here. I didn't even know.
This guy's crazy, John.
I know, he is. He's absolutely crazy. So here's the question. How much of this really happened? The previous... Well, where does it start to be complete.
My assumption is
insanity.
she was a one-night stand,
yes.
which
her
attitude towards him later.
legitimately recognize him later. Yes. So
yes.
they did.
So I
she's
assume
not
this
completely
happened. She may have bit him because some people kinky do stuff like that. But then I think she probably did duck out before dawn or whatever.
Yeah.
She probably's like, I'm out.
So we're still in reality at this point.
I believe so, but he is putting weird pieces together because his mind is going. So the pieces he's putting together is Bat and Lady bit me last night and disappeared.
Yeah. So this is where
he's going to start believing he's been turned into a vampire.
And so now he's out on a date with Cassie Lemon's character at the museum.
That wasn't a one-night stand.
They're looking at art, and he just fucking leaves. Too. He just goes, I gotta take a piss, and then just
she's doing like a date thing. She goes, what do you think of this one? They're looking at a painting.
Yeah.
And he just coldly just goes, I gotta take a piss. and then he
you see him
leaves.
walk towards the bathroom and then just veer off out the exit.
He's an asshole, man.
I can't believe she even thinks about giving him another chance after this. This is This is pretty bad. Yeah.
Well, she does basically say, that she calls him and leaves a message like, I don't ever want to fucking see you again. Who does that?
Yeah.
But she does back down. Later.
Then the next scene is the thing about, like, now I have to listen to this guy chew me out. And the guy is, of course, as we said, he's like, oh, it's no big deal, whatever. And he's just like, man, I couldn't even get a word in. That guy's so pissed.
And it's just so he can keep this woman, his assistant, abused. Just another takedown for this poor lady.
I think when I was talking about this before we started recording here, that this plays so differently to today, and the fact that it's just so casually in this movie, whereas today this would be the main crux of the satire or the
I don't
point.
think it's casually in this movie. It's just they're not addressing it with the kind of what you think would happen.
It doesn't have the weight, or no, it almost unintentionally has the weight, I guess, is what we're talking about with the performance of it. That it really does. It really feels like horrifying.
What is amazing is that part of his abuse later. I mean, it gets very serious, but before it gets to that point, the way he throws around the C word in this movie.
Yeah,
whoa.
Man, I don't think you'd write that in a script today. Not unless you were really.
Not unless you were making that character the worst human ever.
Yeah.
But I mean, it is just pretty.
But I feel like we're not supposed to think this guy's the worst human ever, unless we're supposed to think about, like, oh, what an asshole. Can you believe this guy?
Yeah.
It's supposed to be that kind of attitude as opposed to like, oh my God, this man. It's just, they really take him so far over the edge.
He's just garbage. He's just a big bag of garbage.
So then he goes to a diner where he fucking loses it because no one will take his order.
Yeah. By the way, I've been to that diner.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Yeah, it was close to the dorm where I lived in New York.
And then he storms out of this place. And then Cage gets to this insane thing where he grabs the wound on his neck and is like, ah!
But we've seen him before this a couple of times. Like when he's walking into the diner, there's this thing that I guess he decided. I don't think it's got to be in the script. This was a Nicolas Cage decision.
I think there's a lot of Nicolas Cage decisions in this.
That there's a physicality to him changing, which we know he's not really. But he starts doing this thing with his jaw where he keeps going like, for no reason. Like,
at a certain point, and this is in the trivia, he straight up starts doing Nosferatu physicality.
Well, that again is I liked that choice. That actually really worked for me.
All the Nosferatu stuff, was that in the script? Or I know Cage is a huge, like, German expressionistic silent movie guy.
Oh, I bet it was in the script that they're watching Nosferatu on TV, and then it may have been him going, then when he shows up at the club, he will make all of the same gestures. Because, of course,
Cage will later produce, and we'll talk about this movie, a movie about the making of Nosferatu many years later. But also, he's oft mentioned The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari as one of his all-time favorite movies.
Great.
So yeah, he is very much, and he always just talked about, like, his influences in acting really come from the silent era more than anything.
Yeah, I think
he misses
tell.
the expressionistic kind of acting when it was more physical.
Yeah, the big takes, the big emotions, all in your face. Yeah.
Absolutely, and you can see that. So that I think this is just a situation where this script really spoke to this guy.
Mm-hmm.
He's just, I mean, I can just imagine Cage reading this and rubbing his hands together like, oh, I know what to do with this.
Well, we do know the road cheating was his idea.
Yeah, which is very...
That was not in the script, and then he regretted it. But you're like, well, I don't mind your own idea.
I don't mind the scene. The fact that he actually ate a roach is a little disturbing, because I like the Renfield sort of thing of him eating a roach, but I don't know that he had to eat a real roach for any of that to be,
He felt he had to, and then he ended up eating 3.
Yeah, that's when he's like, I shouldn't have done that. There's a lot of stuff I feel like. There's a lot of comments, more recent Cage being like, yeah, there's a lot of stuff I did as a young actor that and he was talking about, I heard him talk about method acting. He goes, I kind of had to do it to know I shouldn't do it.
Yeah. That is speaking to young actor,
because like
just
Birdie
wrapped
famously,
up in the romance of it.
When he did Birdie,
he pulled teeth out for Birdie.
He pulled teeth out for Birdie, and he wore the bandages on his face 24/7.
Yeah,
and he has a story about I think it was when he was doing Kiss of Death, maybe Cotton, maybe it was Cotton Club, and he went and like started smashing the cars of a guy selling RC cars on the street in New York. He started stomping them just to see how people would react to some sort of violent, psychotic action like that.
Jesus.
Yeah, and he's just going like, yeah, now I'm a middle-aged guy. I don't really need to fucking do that shit anymore. I can just... But 20-something Nicolas Cage was like, I have to be the part. Yeah.
Yes.
That's a young man's game, I think, because that was Brian Cox who was talking about that recently, where he goes like, you can do that. Yeah. You can do that, but that's going to limit how long you're working, because that burns you out. He goes, look at my friend Daniel Day-Lewis. He's retired now, and he's 50-something. It's like, he goes, that's a shame.
Yeah. Because why don't you just try acting? Why don't you just try...
It always goes back to the Laurence Olivier thing. Have you tried acting, my dear boy?
Have you tried acting?
Yeah, and I definitely come from
Me,
that.
I just sort of make it up.
Yeah.
I'm playing a person that I'm not.
I imagine I'm a wizard, and then I respond to that Ian McKellen thing. So outside of Cage's apartment, are these two mimes acting out a fight? Did you see a lot of mimes doing stuff when you were in New York at this time?
I did.
It's always it's
say,
such a movie thing to me. Like mimes around, I go, I've never seen mimes around in a city.
This was, obviously this was them being. You would see something like this in After Hours as well.
Yeah,
where it's a stylized New York in the fact that they wouldn't be doing it in front of a random apartment building. My school was very close to Washington Square, and Washington Square is where you get all kinds of performers and buskers, and in front of any kind of like landmark, in front of the Empire State, you would have people doing that. You'd also have people selling stolen shit on blankets in front of it. But it was all that kind of thing. But no, you wouldn't just walk down a random sidewalk. And then what I think is kind of hilarious is at the end of the scene, and he walks out of the building, they're still doing the exact same bit, the fake mime fight. You're like, what the fuck is this?
By the way, for no one is around.
No one.
It's the middle of the night, no one's around, and they're just out there doing it. It is so weird.
It's self-consciously weird.
So he calls Cassie Lemons and says, I'm really sorry, can you meet me for a drink? And she kind of reluctantly agrees, but on his way out the door, Jennifer Beals is back. And
she basically says, you're mine. You're my slave. And I get jealous.
And apparently you agree with Nicolas Cage going like, okay.
Well, in this situation,
okay.
This is nothing against Cassie Lemons, but who is very cute in this. But I'd be like, I'm sorry. I'm already a slave to Jennifer Beals. Sorry.
Jennifer, and yes, I think Cassie Lemons is like me going like, I would actually imagine trying to date Cassie Lemons as opposed to going nowhere near Jennifer Beals. Just going like, nope, not even worth trying.
No.
Yeah, which is no slight on Cassie Lemons. She just is a more approachable, as you're saying, sort of cute,
Yeah, instead of being sort of like near I keep saying Greek, but like statuesque,
right?
Perfect beauty. That's almost unapproachable.
Exactly.
Unless you're Sam Rockwell, because then you approach her and then eventually you marry her.
Let's see, Cage.
Right. Wait, isn't that her husband's name, the director?
No, Sam Rockwell's the actor.
But it's Rock something, right?
Jennifer, who's married to I don't know who Jennifer Beals is married to. She's married to Ken Dixon. She was married to Alexander Rockwell.
Alexander Rockwell. Got Rockwell right. Yeah.
Yes.
The guy, and he directed her in that one segment of 4 Rooms that she's in.
Yes. Yeah. They're no longer married.
Well, they had a good 10-year run, according to IMDb.
Yeah. Now she's married to someone named Ken Dixon.
That's all right. It happens.
Sometimes you marry a Ken Dixon. He doesn't appear.
I remember my parents sitting me down and going, "There's some things we need to tell you about life."
He's just a regular guy. Sometimes I think that's maybe for the best. He's the guy not in the industry,
Actually, he's a props guy.
He's a props guy. Is that what it says?
Ken Dixon. Yeah, I clicked his name. He was on the art department prop master for Mission to Mars in 2000.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Well, I have a Google thing here that says he's a Canadian businessman and entrepreneur.
Yes, but for a brief time, he was also a props guy.
Okay.
Which is, I think, where he met her.
Yeah, yeah. Well, or you get somebody involved in the industry like that who isn't, because I think it's the running of your careers together that can be,
sure.
It is always.
We wanted them to be a forever thing, and it just didn't happen.
Well, I think there's
Alexander's fine.
Yeah,
she's fine.
We love both of them. Actually, I don't know where
both of them.
Yeah, where his career.
I'm not playing favorites, but I'd rather kiss her. Ooh, said
it. Alexander Rockwell's like, oh.
He's so disappointed.
Yeah. So,
anywho,
Cassie
she
Lemons
shows up,
is pissed because he stood her up, and she writes a thing on a napkin, which we'll see later.
Yes. So yeah, he has ditched her a second time, and she's totally donezo now.
Totally donezo. Jennifer Beals bites Nicolas Cage some more, at least in his head. And so he goes into work the next day, and this is where Cage. I mean, this is where things are getting fucking terrifying. This is where he chases her into the women's room.
Yes.
And this is where she's going like, I have a gun.
Yeah. I mean, again, was there a way for you to take the same script, same actor, but say play this slightly different to make it slightly tonally more
probably
surreal or stylized, so we don't feel real world terror?
So much real terror on Maria Conchita Alonso's face. So much,
and
like
all the world's biggest shoulder pads. But that's 1988.
Oh my god!
These are ridiculous.
She's a little woman. I mean,
yes, on her frame, it's like, wow, lady.
Yeah. It's about the time she's doing one I think is an underrated one, which is Colors with Robert Duvall and Sean Penn. I like that.
One of the first of the big, like, we're examining gang culture.
Colors. The song for that was
yes.
And he's going like, no, don't be afraid. I'm here to apologize. I'm sorry I've been treating you so. This is the first of like 3 scenes where he tries to act like, I'm sorry.
I'm so sorry. I've had a bad time, and I need to be more respectful toward you, and I'm so sorry.
And this is where the older woman in the office is like, honey, what's going on here? Are you okay?
Are you all right?
Yeah.
He treats you terribly.
Yeah.
And I think she actually says, you should quit, or know, it's like, it's not worth it. And she's like, I can't.
And then I
have to support my family.
Yeah, she's also, once again, a little undercooked as a character. She's given very sort of vague, like, she has to support her family. And we see her family.
She's a little stereotyped.
Yeah,
because she is like,
I am a Mexican woman.
My brother works in a garage.
Yeah, it's very,
my mom doesn't work at all. We live in, like, Queens or something.
Yeah.
We're barely hanging on.
Where do you go in New York to find a queen? Queens. I'll always get back to Coming to America. So, meanwhile, though, Cage.
Good morning, Queens!
Shut the fuck up.
Shut the fuck up.
Yeah. They go. Then he's laughing it up with the guys in the boardroom about what just happened.
Oh, but we are meant. Yes, this is from a different time, but
no, this is right on tone.
Aware.
I feel like this feels like American Psycho.
Right. This is the movie saying we're not trying to convince you this is normal. This is you're supposed to go. These are horrible human beings. Because all the males in the office are laughing about and then you chased her into the bathroom. It's crazy. And the head guy's going, she asked me for a raise.
Yeah.
She was so traumatized. She asked me for a raise. Can you believe that? And they're all having a great time.
No, like I said, more of this in the movie, please.
Yeah.
This
more clear monsters.
Yeah. Clear monsters, very broadly
satire.
portrayed. Yeah. Instead of there should be no real terror in this movie. I feel like this is where they essentially are pulling out their business cards and going, you got the gold once again,
leaf.
even though
nice.
American Psycho is about a serial killer and there's horrible acts of violence, I was never like, oh, I'm chilled to the bone by this movie. Its tone is so bizarre that it's always above the material of going like, yes, but we all know this is ironic, right? Like,
it's all deeply satirical, even the violence.
It is one of those things like when people got all bent out of shape about it, it's like, did you see it? Because the tone of the movie is not...
It's a black comedy, just like this is trying to be, but there are moments of where... As we keep saying, where the tone doesn't match, and then you're like going, ooh, this is a failed attempt at what could have been, you know, like a more acceptable black comedy.
So Cage comes home to find the napkin note from Cassie Lemons on his mailbox that says, like, stay out of my life forever.
Yeah.
Which causes him to completely destroy his apartment.
Yep.
And it's
which, according to the notes,
all real.
All that stuff was real. And the director's like, he could have totally slashed himself open. It's like, we were stupid to let him do it.
I can't believe... I mean, it does seem like this whole
They
movie...
didn't have the budget to replace anything either, so they're like, we get one take.
Yeah. It just feels like this whole movie is just like Cage going, no, I want to do it.
Oh, yeah.
I'm gonna do it. Which is, once again, I think Cage would also go like, yeah, maybe not.
This is very similar to the Citizen Kane scene, which was, again, but in the case of him, he had all the money. He could have, at the time, making that movie, he could have replaced everything. But one take of real destruction of real things, which, of course, in the case of Citizen Kane, he did slash his hand open.
Yeah. It's interesting, in that book, once again, they talk about how young Cage was like, wild and spontaneous and whatever, and they talk about like current Cage is described by people who work with him as competent, professional, like he's he's gone to, I've done enough of this where it's like, oh, he's the guy you want around because he knows how to get results and do what the things, and he's figured it out beforehand, and he's not
he moved past the need to be that guy.
Now I think he's also a little bit like, well, I'm number one on the call sheet, I'm the old hand, I should be going like, yes, this is how we do it. I don't want to... Because also, like, you're wasting people's time at a certain point, too, when you're just fucking around.
Yeah.
So then he goes see his therapist where he's complaining about the missing contract, and she talks about, was it misfiled? And this leads to one of the most iconic scenes from this movie, oft pulled out, which is Cage saying the alphabet. And it is truly amazing.
It really is.
I can't even... A, B, C, it's like
you think he's gonna stop, and then he just keeps going while Elizabeth Ashley's going, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then he gets through the whole thing and she goes, your alphabet, that's great.
And then he turns talking about the physical performance, he goes, I never misfiled nothing in my life, and he crosses his arms and puts his hands to his hips. Not once, not ever.
Yes, and when he does the hands on his hips, he does like the hip thrust with like never ever, and you're like, what is this performance?
It is.
He's hopping on the couch, he's hopping off, he's doing superhero poses.
Yeah,
all in this one scene where he's like, I never misfiled anything in my life.
Yeah, I don't. It's so weird. And then he comes into the office in his sunglasses. There's a weird moment when he takes like a knickknack off a woman's desk and just throws it in the trash can without stopping.
And then they have a zoom in on her, and she goes, "He's so eccentric."
Yeah, which I love that. Yeah.
But this is where he's also had a few moments so far where
that's a great moment. Like that.
He's had a few, yeah. He's had a few moments in this movie so far. I mean, after the biting and Jennifer Beal showing up a second time, where he's starting to do things like I have so much pain because I'm in front of a church that has a cross, and also looking in a mirror and going, wait. Where am I? Where am I? And then so he's doing the mental I'm transforming into a vampire thing.
We all see
that's why he's showing up in the shade.
We all see it shade. In reality. He is in the mirror. We're all seeing
yes, we see him in the mirror, but he's going, oh my God, where am I? Where am I? I'm not in there.
There's so much Cage like throughout this, like it's great. The so eccentric thing also led me down another route this movie could have done. Is he starts to gain more respect at work as he gets more insane because he's seen as some sort of creative genius. That would have been an interesting route to take it, where it's like he's just so passionate, that's just his process. Because that's also an interesting way to play the satire of, because I hear that a lot, and especially you heard that prior to like Me Too stuff, where it's just like, well, he's not an asshole. He's just dedicated, or he just asks so much of people. It's like, fuck you. He's a prick is what that means. Like, he's just a perfectionist. When he screams in someone's face, he wants the best out of that. It's like, talk to Fred Savage about that. That won't be prescient at all by the time this actually comes out. But apparently,
people will be like, oh, I vaguely recall when that happened.
Yeah, apparently that's kind of what got him fired, though, is a lot of screaming at people and doing needless amounts of takes until it's perfect.
I wish it weren't like that.
Me too. I mean,
you don't want Kevin to be an asshole.
It's tough to imagine Fred Savage like screaming at somebody, isn't it?
Because he still has the same face.
He still has the same face. He's kind of a little guy too.
He's a little delightful faced guy.
Yeah, he's still so boyish. And to think he's just like lighting into somebody on the set of that show is like,
did you think that was good?
Yeah.
Did you think that was good? Because I didn't.
Yeah, apparently there was a lot of like, Fred, we've done 10 takes. We got to let the crew go. No, we haven't gotten it yet.
Man.
Yeah. Boy, I just love that idea of like, you're directing television. You kind of can't act like that. Like, you can't take that kind of you got to move.
Also, you're working with children.
That's another. You would think a guy who's a former child actor would have some respect. Anyway, back to this movie.
Tangent much?
Yeah. So let's see. Yeah, he's he collapses in front of the church, which we mentioned, and then he's in his bedroom where Jennifer Beals appears once again, and she says all she wants is his love, to love me.
Yeah.
And this is where he takes the Band-Aid off himself and is like, "Come on, get in here."
And she does the thing of while they're getting busy, and she says the thing about all I want is your love, and I love you. Say it to me. Say that you love me.
Yeah.
So if this is something his mind is creating, this is an interesting portrait of a dude's insanity. It's grim. And of course the movie is still trying to have its cake and eat it too, where it's saying maybe this is real, maybe it's not. At this point, we don't know.
And once again, this is where the movie and this is what I'm talking about with like the Marie Conchita Alonso stuff is like, if you really want to dig into portrait of his insanity, maybe don't follow her perspective. Let's just stay in his mindset and really start going, is any of this real? And I think it could have been,
even the way he treated her, you could possibly say it was like, maybe that was something that was only his id or something in his brain. But no, we do see that everything he does to her is something he actually did. I wish the
movie was even vaguer about what's real, and you really question. Because by the end of the movie, especially like this time, I'm going, in my memory, it's pretty vague. But on this view, I'm going like, no, he's not a vampire. It's pretty definitive by the end of the movie.
It's very definitive.
But I would have liked an ending where it's a little bit more like, oh, I don't know.
The movie does do a thing where when his last assault on Maria Conchita Alonso, on Alva, is terrifying and horrible, but at least the movie and they show a little restraint. We're not sure how far it went until towards the end when she finally says to her brother, it's like, he raped me.
Yeah.
And we did not see it in that context.
Shouldn't
we see him force her down the ground and tear her dress open.
Yeah.
But then he kind of just lays on her and she's crying and we don't quite know what happened.
Can I pitch something to make it less horrific and more fitting in the movie? What if he had tried to bite her neck? That would have been a more interesting thing.
Well, he does he doesn't bite her neck, but he does.
But I'm talking about if that was the attempted
loom over it.
If that was the attempted assault that the brother is upset about, I think that would have been enough. If he bit her, and then that goes back to the vampire thing, and also then I'm not going like, the rape in this is so.
I know. This movie goes dark places,
it
man.
Really does.
It goes
so then
dark
you have Jennifer Beals and Nicolas Cage watching Nosferatu. Which I certainly do love. Any shout out to Murnau's Nosferatu? It's a classic. Then we get this weird thing where is this meant to be? I wonder if this is meant to be part of it when he's play acting, like Jennifer Beals is still there and he's in the shower, but there's no one there.
I think that is the filmmaker taking you in the real world.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah.
So we're watching him, and he is no doubt seeing Jennifer Beals in the shower.
Yeah. And
he's talking to empty air and going, "What are you doing in there? Oh, I'm coming for you. Oh,
yeah.
What are you? Oh, we're having a great time."
It is certainly bizarre.
Yep.
And then right after this is when he eats the cockroach.
Yep.
And I will say, it's kind of great. I mean, like the way he chews it, and he's like, eyes are all popped out, and he's like, and he just,
The thing is, what I do, something I do like in the script, in the directing, in the acting, is that he is believing he's on this course to becoming a vampire, but anytime he actually does something vampiric, whenever he eats the roach or the pigeon later, or then he actually, spoiler, attacks and kills a woman.
Yeah.
We see that he has a horrible physical reaction to it.
Yes.
In other words, he's a real person who his body is like going, "That's horrible. Don't do that."
Right.
But in his mind, he has to do that. He is a vampire.
He's not acting here, because if you saw in the notes there, Cage talking about shooting the scene, was it every part of my body told me not to eat that cockroach. Like having to force myself to eat that was like, every part of me said, please. Yeah, every muscle in my body didn't want to do it, but I did it anyway.
Oh, Nick.
Yeah!
What an
Nick
actor.
Cage! By the way, also, do yourself a favor and look up any TV appearance interviews of Nicolas Cage at this time, because he is fucking crazy on these talk shows with his karate kicks and leaping around. And
he was famous for that. You'd see him on Letterman, and basically what Crispin Glover got into trouble on Letterman for doing, essentially Nicolas Cage was already doing. He just didn't aim it at the host.
Yes, exactly. That was the difference. Also, he was very much into his Elvis phase, which never left him. So Nicolas Cage was always like, and here's a little karate. Yeah.
And he's doing all that stuff. Yeah.
By the way,
he was eccentric. By the way, belovedly.
Another close friend of Nicolas Cage, Crispin Glover.
Of course. Yeah.
Those two guys are good buddies. Adds up. But he and Sean Penn do not get along. That's very famous that they have issues with each other. And I'm going to side with Cage, because I don't really care for Penn. I like him as an actor, but as a person, I'm always like, oh, shut the fuck up, Sean Penn.
Dude, he's out there saving Ukraine, so...
He's sort of like, who's asking Sean Penn to go fight the war in Ukraine?
He took it upon himself.
Yeah, he's always going to like war zones, and it's like, dude, no one asked you to do this. I'm not going to applaud you. I'm sorry. No one asked you to be there.
His reasoning is always like, cameras will follow me because I'm famous. Yeah. So what I'm doing is bringing attention to this. And you go, like, that is some logic. Okay, but still, I don't think it's helping anything.
By that logic, though, he would have just as much success putting on a telethon or something here, whatever. Like,
that's very
There's
true.
many ways that people use their fame for good. People don't often go to the war zones, and I think a lot of people would say you're probably actually causing more trouble than good by doing that. But
no doubt,
that's my issues with Mr. Penn.
All right.
At a certain point, I think he started to
believe... It's on the record.
At a certain point, I think he started to believe he was a character in one of his movies.
Yeah.
Let's go here. Okay. So He comes into
and not
work,
the character from Sweet Low Down, because if he was that guy, everyone would love him.
He plays guitar so well.
He's delightful.
Yeah, I do love that movie. Let's see. The Alva's called in sick, and this is where Nicolas Cage is like, "She's sick. She has a bad cold."
Well, I like the way he plays it. Is that the other assistant or the secretary?
The woman who finds him very eccentric. Yes.
She just says, she says she has a very bad cold, and the thing I like is that he won't let that wording go.
Yeah.
So it becomes this repetitive thing. He's like going, a really bad cold?
Yeah.
Is it a really bad cold?
Yeah.
And then when he actually goes to Maria Conchita Alonso's house, he's out there, I heard you had a really bad cold. He just won't let the wording go.
Oh my God, and the packet of soup.
I
brought soup.
I just spent $25 on a taxi all the way up from Manhattan to check on you because I want to make sure you're all right because I heard you had a really bad cold, and I brought soup.
And he brought soup. He goes, "Isn't that a wonderful gesture?"
She lets him in. Yeah. That's dumb. But she
because this is psychotic at this point. Like he's dangerous.
Similar to Jackie, she's always like, I want to believe that he has turned a corner and now he realizes what an asshole and now he's going to be nice.
Yeah.
And instead, he is horrible to her the second he walks in. And he's like, well, she admits I was faking the cold. I was just too worried to come into work because I've disappointed you on not finding that contract. And he's like going, well, I appreciate your honesty, but that means that you can help. So let's go back and get back to looking for the contract. And let's get in the taxi.
He even kind of goes like, in fact, don't worry about it, right? Like, you can take your time. You know what? If he's got a problem, he can stop being our client. And then it's in the taxi cab that he's like, all right, now that we're headed back to work, are you going to find that fucking contract, right? And she's like, wait, you said you didn't care about it.
He verbally abuses her terribly.
Well, because he is like, shut the fuck up, bitch.
Yeah.
And you are just like, once again, I'm going like, I don't quite understand the point that they're landing with this. Beyond, this guy's terrible, but
they've just kept
vampirism,
escalating his terribleness.
Yeah, but once again, I'm going like, it seems like he might have gone down this road a little bit anyway, even without the vampire stuff.
That's why I do think that was a mistake. He didn't have to be like Mr. Rogers at the beginning of the movie, but
back him off a little bit or something.
Yeah, back him off a little bit. If he starts out an asshole and just becomes a psychotic asshole, then again, we don't like this main character at all.
Right. The tragic collapse of this guy isn't really tragic. It's more just like, well, you kind of get that when you act like this, man. Like, I don't know what to tell you. I didn't necessarily think you were going to get staked at the beginning, but hey, man.
Unless there is the possibility that his mental problems could go way, way back, and we're just seeing them really boil over here.
Well, and
so it's possible that all of his bad behaviors are part of lifelong mental illness.
Then that should have been clearer. You know what I mean?
Sure, of course.
There's any number of ways to do it. The movie's missing some key pieces in its execution. I feel like there is something interesting here, and there's a lot interesting in this movie actually, and a lot that I'm really captivated by, a lot on Cage's part, but I think the script and the direction could have held up his performance a little bit better. Instead, he really is working overtime to carry this picture. So she says, well, hang on, before we get to work, that's my brother's gas station, I have to give him some money, can we stop? Sure, yeah. And this is where she goes
I thought at this scene, just because it's been so long since I've seen it, I in my mind I was like, well, has she just faked that?
I thought so too, actually. I thought so too, yeah. And then it really is her brother's gas station.
No, her brother really works there, and she's gone to get his gun.
No, she has the gun. She's getting bullets.
She's getting bullets.
He gave
right?
her an empty gun to for show.
And then she's like, but I know you've got bullets for it. I need it. And she's like, what? Don't. And then she's like, I need them. And he goes, well, I've got blanks.
Yeah. Because
this is going to help with his
psychosis. The owner of the gas station had loaded his gun with blanks to scare people off.
Right.
So
she takes the blanks.
Yeah. She goes, fine, I'll take the blanks, whatever. And then meanwhile, Cage, this is another moment where the cab driver's going, here's a picture of my wife and kids, and Cage is like, that's really beautiful. And you going back to like, I don't, once again, they don't, it just doesn't quite land. This whole thing about I just want to be in love, because the movie also kind of forgets that for long stretches, and then you come back to it and you're like, oh right, this is a thing.
I do think all the focus on the office stuff, I think a lot of that could have been swapped out for more of this, of like an explanation of his psychological makeup, and why this is a thing, and because it does forget about the whole all I've wanted that will make my life right, that will make me normal, and all this stuff is I just need to find the one.
And that's easy to tie into. I've imagined this woman who's a vampire, and I'm now under her spell, which is part of this whole thing. That all works. It's the toxic boss stuff that that you could even find a way to get that in there. But anyway, so she comes back, and they go. Let's see.
They go to work.
Yeah, and she ends up finding
this is where we have the abuse, right? This is where we have the rape?
Well, she ends up finding the contract here.
Oh, yeah.
Meanwhile, so she's knocking on the door to his office.
She's happy. She's like, I found the thing. And
he's not responding because we see Jennifer Beals in his office drinking his blood.
Yep.
And then, when she interrupts, this is when he chases her downstairs into the basement. And she pulls the gun on him. And
he's saying, do it.
Yeah. Come on, do it.
Yeah. He's because he's doing a layer of vampire movie stuff where he's like, I'm damned. Go ahead and take me out of this life. I'm a monster. Kill me. And she is a good actor. So she's very real. She's crying. She's like, don't make me. And then
he does eventually go, I'll rape you. Like, I used to trying to get her to, which, okay, that's fine to have him say that. I don't think he needed to actually then rape her, but
apparently the movie thought he did.
Yeah.
So, but she does shoot him. They are blanks.
She's shooting at the ground after he rapes her. Then he puts the. This movie doesn't understand how blanks work. That would still have killed him.
I know.
Putting the gun in his mouth. It's almost like they're not blanks. They're like a starter pistol.
Yeah,
or something
they're
like
like caps.
Like I remember having to load a gun for a play with those, where it would just be a flash inside of the thing.
Right.
And
but in this case, all this. I mean, the reason the screenwriter has done this is just because, to his mind, where he's already going, this is further confirmation that he has become a supernatural creature of the night. Whereas we know he's not.
No, for all we know, the gun was even empty at that point. She did shoot it probably more than 6 times, and he's just imagining that it fired too.
Could be.
Yeah. Could be. I kind of wanted him to breathe out smoke when he opened his mouth again, but that's just
me. Instead, the smoke keeps coming up from behind his head because that's where they put whatever the little
But I thought that would have been cool if he shot the gun into his mouth twice and then went, and it came out of that's just me though. I think the movie could have used some more visual stuff in it.
All right.
I don't think
Is there anything else you need to fix in the movie? You let me know.
Across the board. Cage is the one thing I'm keeping.
Okay, good.
But this is when he goes.
And Jennifer Beals.
Yes. I think there's, but this is when he's like, I really am a vampire.
Yeah.
Cut to, I'm a vampire.
Post rape.
Yeah.
He runs into the street like a crazy person.
Yeah.
Shirt untucked.
Yeah.
And wild-haired, wild-eyed, and it's broad daylight, and he's running up to people in the street going, I'm a vampire! I'm a vampire! I'm a vampire!
I mean, it's great, but once again, this is where the comedy right after the rape is tough, man.
Yeah,
because this is so silly at this point. And I've seen this clip bounced around online. There's a lot of clips from this movie that I do think, unfortunately, and this is my thought, is like, people pull clips from this and go, that's Nicolas Cage. And I go, well, that's Nicolas Cage and Vampires Kiss. You know what I mean? Like, he doesn't act like this in every movie by any stretch of the imagination. There are levels to Cage.
He's not a vampire in every movie.
Well, that's
And in this one, he really needed to let people know
in fact,
what he was.
He's only just now returning to the role of a vampire.
I know.
Well, we will have to talk about that movie at some point.
We
obviously.
will, and my fingers are crossed. I'm glad it's a comedy, as I said. I'm glad it's a comedy.
But just
because
Cage playing
I was
Dracula,
afraid.
I want to see it. So yeah, let's see. He runs down the street, and then this is where he lays underneath the couch and closes it like it's his coffin.
Yes.
Yeah.
In the apartment, which he never, for the rest of the movie, cleans up. So
No.
it is a total disaster area. And he just puts himself under the couch.
And he's covered all the windows, obviously.
Yep.
And Jennifer Beals is there going, I will teach you how to be part of this life now. Whatever. She's going to be his vampire mentor. Meanwhile, Alva's at home, and she's refusing to get out of bed.
She's not in a good way, man.
Raped.
She's not in a good way.
And, oh, God, Cage shopping for vampire fangs. Now, this I love.
I do too.
Yeah.
It's so great.
Once again, more of this. These are all the scenes that really work.
He's in a magic shop and the guys are going, these are top of the line. These are fiberglass. And they're a very natural color. And he goes, oh, these are nice.
Yeah.
How much? He's like, these are $30. And I do love that yuppie Nicolas Cage
opens up his wallet and he's got like
these ones. He just has some ones. He goes, you got anything cheaper? He goes, sure. Yeah, these are for kids. Here you go. These are vampire fangs. And they're the classic. Yeah. The hinged two uppers and lowers.
Yeah.
Vampire teeth that I had as a kid.
That everybody had. You couldn't avoid these as a kid.
And it goes, those will be $3.50. And so next thing we see, he is run to a bench.
Him running and tearing him in his mouth. The bag and stuff. And
and
it's almost
and he immediately starts slinking. He starts like slinking like a vampire.
These teeth are a gift to Nicolas Cage as an actor because he does so much with them.
Oh my god! And he's of course also doing not just the body movements, but the face. He's doing like it is big silent movie acting. Like, look at me, I'm a creature of the night.
Yeah.
And again, freaking out strangers and
he's chasing these pigeons. He's trying to catch a pigeon.
And catches a pigeon and takes it home to eat.
Which I do like that in the IMDb there they said they drugged one of the pigeons so that it would slow down, but they didn't tell Nicolas Cage, because I like the idea that Cage would be like, that's bullshit, man. I should catch a real, a non-altered pigeon. So I just like the idea of like, drug one and just don't tell me.
All I could say is that even drugged, it takes him several times. I'm like, it's tough to catch a pigeon, yo.
Yeah.
But he also calls his therapist. Is that the same scene?
No, that's after he bites the woman.
Oh, yes. Right.
Yeah.
Where he's trying to talk to her with the fangs in his mouth, and it's very funny.
Yeah, that's.
This is Peter. Hello.
Once again, all the stuff that's just Cage is great.
Really is.
Yeah.
Really is.
No, because he takes the pigeon back to his house, and we see all the feathers on the ground, and him being like, nom, 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 like he ate the pigeon.
He ate the pigeon, but then he also is like doing these like retches where he's like,
yeah,
because he ate a raw bird.
It's great. Sorry,
in this case,
I made that sound, and Columbo's looking at me like he's alarmed about that noise I just made. What are you doing? Yeah. So yeah.
No, he heard the whole thing about eating pigeons,
and he was like,
yes.
Somebody got some pigeon?
More, please.
Y'all got some pigeon over there? Yeah. They So this is where he wakes up and he lifts the couch up like a coffin, and they do the creaking. Oh, it's great. That's great, man. Once again,
it is great.
I'm like, oh, good. I'm having fun with this movie again. It's tough, Now
that we're past the rape.
Yeah. Because
haven't gotten to the murder yet.
He's gonna go to this dance club, but even the murder. See, that's the thing where the murder would have worked as the point of no return. You don't need the rape because once he bites it, and the murder is on point with the vampire stuff. If that was the point where you're like, oh shit, he really is off the deep end because he bit this woman, that would have I think had more impact in the movie had he not been.
True.
Anyway. Because he goes to this club and he's got the vampire fangs in. I love that he just gut punches the guy at the door and runs into the dance club.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all very manic and nuts, and he's moving. This is where he's really
manic
doing
until he gets in, and once he gets in, then he is moving like Max Schreck.
full on Nosferatu here,
yeah,
full on Count Orlok behavior, and he's searching around, and he's almost like a shark on the dance floor. The way he's like,
And he does capture the physicality well because he's got the shoulders up and the arms are close to the side, but he's got the claws out. It's great.
He's got the vampire teeth in.
And people are laughing at him because, his eyes are so big that they're like, oh, look at this goof.
Yeah.
As he's looking around for a victim, and he's looking at necks.
Yeah.
The camera is showing his POV, and he's watching dancers. He's looking at necks.
And he does take this woman back to some couch in the back of this
Well,
place.
she's actually already there at a couch doing cocaine.
Right.
So she's all alone in this like upper area on a couch, and she's doing cocaine, and she laughs at him because he comes in and he just stalks her and sits down. He whispers in her ear, and she's like, that's funny, whatever. And she's like, it's all a joke to her. And then he goes in for real.
Yeah.
And I do wonder, no matter how much force you're using,
could you really bite into somebody's neck? And
those plastic fangs, at a certain point, I mean, they would hurt, but they would fold at some point. They wouldn't actually pierce skin.
And even if they could, they wouldn't pierce enough to kill someone. What I mean? Like,
well, that's the thing. Once she has her neck punctured, and I'm thinking in real world terms.
Yeah.
I mean, plus Coke gives you plenty of crazy strength and energy.
Yeah.
She would have shoved that guy off of him, run.
Yeah.
She would have bled, but she would not have died.
Well, can I ask this? Did she die?
Well, she did because it's in the newspapers.
Oh, that's right. It is. Yeah, because otherwise, this is something that should have been chalked up to. Did this happen?
Yeah.
Yes, that's right. You're right. They do that.
He actually kills this woman in the club. I don't know if he drains a revolver of her blood.
I could see that he bit someone and there's blood on him. But the
if
idea
he
that he
got
killed
her carotid artery,
he'd have to really puncture. At least biting through skin and tissue and stuff. There,
he would have drunk some blood because he's a vampire. But then she just would have bled out on the couch when he. But I do like
the way the blood is around him like a goatee for the rest of the movie.
Yeah. And he runs out basically going, I am a thing of the night. I am the damned. I am a vampire, and I just did it.
Yeah.
And no one finds her for a bit.
No one does find her for a bit. Let's see. I want to see where they have.
Then he's out in the street, just roaming around, bloody faced.
Yeah. Well, no. Let's see. Let me see here. He bites woman. Casts him aside. She's with a new guy, Jennifer Beals.
Oh, right. Sorry, yeah. Before he leaves the club, he does see actual Jennifer Beals dancing with another guy.
Yeah.
And he goes up to her and he's like, I thought you said you loved me. Who's this guy? And I am one of you, and you turned me. And they're like, okay, buddy. And she goes, he says, you know me. And she goes, yeah, it's Peter, right?
Yeah.
And she's just normal lady, like, yeah, we hooked up once. Yeah. What's your deal?
Yeah.
And he starts screaming, she's a vampire. Look at her teeth.
Yeah.
Look at her teeth.
Look at her teeth. Yeah.
So he's clearly insane, and he's got blood all down the front of his shirt.
And they're chasing him out of the club. I do like the guy on the street outside who makes the cross with his fingers.
Oh yeah.
And he's going, and Cage's like, no. It's all very fun, and I think this is where he calls the therapist. And he's like, this is Peter Lowe.
It's like, we need to set up an early meeting.
And I do like anytime she goes, well, I could do Tuesday morning sooner.
Yes, sooner.
Yeah, it's very...
I like the way she's like, who is this?
Yeah.
It's Peter Lowe. Is there something wrong with your mouth?
Yeah, and she's like, do you have a cold? Yes. Like... Yeah, and
his performance is the reason for this movie.
It really is. It is the I recommend when we get just skipping ahead to our recommendations. I go, if you are a Nicolas Cage fan, you need to see this movie.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
there's no way around it.
No,
really.
it is much. I don't think, like I said, I've seen it once. I don't think I'll watch it again after this. Like, it's not a movie I really enjoy, but God damn, Cage! It shows you how much a performance can almost sell a whole movie.
Yeah.
Like, it can almost overcome any shortcomings and actually make a movie watchable. This guy is carrying this movie. It is amazing. So he makes that. It's the next morning, and this is where he just grabs this piece of jagged wood that he breaks off of the pallet.
Yeah, he's still wandering the streets, and
like all night this guy was just wandering the streets of New York. But from what I understand of New York, and you lived there for a little while, not unusual to see some weirdos out and about.
Here's the thing that actually does hit home. It's not just about New York, but any big city I've lived in, even here in Portland, if you go to the right areas. His performance here is actually very real. And you will see people that are probably schizophrenic, who've had psychotic breaks, and the way he's wailing, the volume he's reaching, and the way he's screaming, and the way he's walking, that is not cartoonish. Sadly to say, I've seen things like it. Certainly haven't seen anyone walk around with a big plank of wood saying, "Kill me, I'm a vampire."
But it's interesting to see, once again, when you talk about these are real New Yorkers reacting, nobody's that concerned. They're all just like,
Well, they run away from him because like, he does confront like this sort of middle-aged or older couple. And I love that he's just so committed. He's just holding the stake out like, "Do it. Kill me. I'm a vampire." And they hop like they're startled. And then they do this big circuit around him. And these are real people. Even later when he does the walking into the wall thing and then having the imaginary conversation with his therapist.
We're getting to here,
he does that scene, and everyone walking by behind him, again, are just real people looking at an actor who's got blood on him talking to a wall.
Yeah.
And it's like, God damn it.
This is the kind of stuff, though, where once again, I do kind of, because I do laugh at the fake therapist thing.
Well, I think that this scene where he unsuccessfully gets someone to kill him with a stake.
Yeah.
But he bumps into a wall, and then he's having his meeting with the psychotherapist. This scene is actually where I think this is what the movie could have been.
Yeah.
I think this works. The director is nailing it.
Yep.
The writing is really good.
Yeah.
And the way they're framing it, we're cutting back to him with the vampire teeth in, and he's clearly insane.
Yeah.
But then you're with him in the office, and he's cleaned up, and he's just like,
that's what I'm saying.
Something
like,
I've decided that I can move past this, and I don't need her anymore. And he's like, and she's like, "Great. Well, let me introduce you to this fantasy."
I can't believe
lady.
I never thought of this before, but my other patient would be perfect, which is crazy.
There's this perfect dream girl that she introduces him to, who likes all the same things he does, including Wordsworth quotes and all that.
Literally laughed out loud when he goes, "Oh, one other thing. I did rape somebody."
And then this is in the imaginary thing, and the imaginary version of Elizabeth Ashley goes, "Listen, you were going through a lot.
Yeah.
And that's okay."
Yeah.
You know, it's like,
it was just a little expression of your id, she says. It's okay.
Yeah.
And
then he goes,
okay.
"Oh, that's great."
Yeah,
and he goes, "Another thing."
Yeah. "I did murder a woman last night." Like
and his dream girl is standing next to him because they're about to leave together. And she's giving these looks of like, "Oh, did you really?"
Yeah. And she goes,
"But it's no big deal." She's just hearing him out.
She goes, "If you murdered someone, wouldn't the police have arrested you?" And he's like,
"Yeah,
that's true."
And I do love in this imaginary office where he is cleaned up, sane Peter Lowe. He still has the stake, the big piece of wood, and the psychiatrist goes, "What's that for?" And he goes, "It's a long story."
And then, so he does rush home just as Alva's brother, who is now irate, of course, because she has said Peter raped her, and he's going to go beat him. I don't think he intends to murder him necessarily.
No, I don't think so, because I did think that he would have, he's now got real bullets in the gun or something. But no, when he gets out of the car,
he's got
iron. They've just camped out to see him come home, and she goes, "That's him. That's the guy."
I'm not
so
sure
all he does
at this
point,
if I go, I'm going to start some shit with that blood-covered psycho, though.
I know.
I would have a thought or two.
Who's talking to himself as he
goes
like, into his house.
That guy may be on his own. That guy may have his own problems. I know he raped my sister, and that's awful, but maybe you call the police now.
He takes that tire iron, he smashes his way in through the ground door, the ground floor door.
This is crazy. Cage is still in his head, but he's now screaming at the imaginary dream woman and having this weird argument with her.
Actually, to me, that is the blackest part of it, because even in his fantasy,
I love this.
It has taken him 20 minutes between the imaginary meeting of his dream girl and him going home, and he's already got problems with it. He's like, if that's the way you're gonna be about it.
Well, I do like when he goes, every time you're on me, it's about the same thing. Oh, Peter, you're a vampire.
Yes, it's so great. He does that dance too. Yeah. He's doing like the blah blah,
and he's doing this,
and he's got his hand on his hip.
Yeah,
he's doing
and he's half bent over, and he's like,
because he's imitating a woman's stance.
Yeah,
I'm a nag.
Yeah, man, not even 10 minutes before you're on me about the vampire stuff.
So then he gets under the couch. Then the brother breaks in. He's ready.
Yet another red flag should be what this apartment looks like for this guy when he breaks in. I would think all of this is just back away, not today, pal.
So he's looking for the guy, and then he notices that he's under the couch, and he's got the tire iron. He lifts the couch.
Yeah.
Nicolas Cage is there, and it is like Nicolas Cage's crazy mind goes, I've been found as a vampire. So he's got the stake up to his chest.
Yeah.
And then the guy, the brother's like, well, I don't need the tire iron. Yeah. And he just shoves the stake into Nicolas Cage's chest.
Oh, yeah.
He kills the vampire.
He does.
And the end of the movie is him leaving the apartment. And then when you see the apartment, you just have dead Nicolas Cage. And it is a nice shot, I got to say.
Yeah.
Where you have the sun beams coming through the black curtains and all that. It's good.
There are, like I said, that's the thing where this is not a bad movie, but there's so many moments where you're like, oh, I could imagine this being such a better movie. Like,
yeah.
And then you have Jennifer Beals at the end saying, "Dream of me."
Yes, dream of me, my love.
Yeah, and the movie ends. Vampire's kiss. Crazy movie.
It is an outlier in our run.
Yeah.
I mean, we avoided She-Wolf of London because it was a psych out, not a werewolf movie. We've avoided plenty of movies that
don't have actual monsters.
We never did Bela Lugosi's Mark of the Vampire because it turns out at the end it's all fake.
Right. Yeah. There's a few things we haven't done because of that. We did watch a whole movie, that one werewolf movie that wasn't a werewolf movie. Was that the one with David Jansen? No, did we watched the David Jansen one?
Yeah, that actually
the
had
Peter Graves one. It was the Peter Graves one that didn't. Right?
Oh yeah, the psych out. Yeah, where it was the great hunter and
that was the one that we ended. We actually did watch that and then
that's true.
and didn't. Yeah, that one didn't work out. But I feel like this one we did need to talk about because it is so wild.
I think it's a cousin to classic vampire films, and
Cage is a vampire fan. He's often stated that Christopher Lee is one of his all-time favorite actors. So that's which as he should be.
Did you see that Jill Gatsby played Victim Girl?
Yes.
Jill Gatsby was in Return to Salem's Lot the same year.
Oh shit! Yeah.
Yeah. So we've seen 2 movies with her, and the reason is I believe she is daughter of Larry Cohen.
Oh.
Or wife? No, I think she's his daughter. So that's how she ended up in that.
Yeah.
Don't know how she ended up in Vampire's Kiss, but we have now seen, and she's in Maniac Cop.
I see that.
So she's in her dad's movies a lot, but she at least got to jump over here and end up in Vampire's Kiss.
Very nice.
So do we recommend it, or do we just recommend people go on YouTube to watch the important clips?
Kind of that, or like I said, if you are like a real Cage fan, I do think there's plenty of good purely from Cage in this thing. I do think Jennifer Beals is good in it, but I don't think this. I think this is a noble failure of a movie. I think it doesn't work, but I like what it's trying to do.
Yes,
I wish it was better, and Cage deserves better because Cage is putting all the energy in the world into this. And it's truly, he is mesmerizing in the movie, even if the movie's not working. He is really quite something.
Agreed.
So I'm glad we got to talk about Cage on the show at the very least.
Yes, indeed.
This is really something, though. So that's Vampire's Kiss. Oh, Brendan, next week we're back to sequels.
Is it a good one?
Is it a good one? Vampires.
Is it one we're excited about?
I don't think so. It is The Howling 4.
No.
What is the subtitle on this one here? The Howling.
Is this the true story or
I believe
the
that
real story?
Yeah, it's something like that. The Howling 4 is.
We're finally doing it right.
The Howling 4, the original Nightmare.
The original Nightmare.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is the one that is attempting to be more accurate to the novel, The Howling.
Great.
Is I believe what this is. This is the one where the guy who wrote the book wrote this, and he's like, I'm going to get it right this time. Wow. But with way less money than any of the other ones.
And without the wit of the original.
Yeah, Howling for this is it, man. But I believe he also did end up disowning it. Still, I think it's still
finally the original name. Oh no, it's terrible. I'm very sorry.
I think it was something to that extent. So yeah, I don't think is there anybody known in this thing. No, I don't know any of these actors. Rami.
Surely you know.
Romy Walthall.
Nope.
Michael T. Weiss. He looks kind of familiar. Anthony Hamilton, Susan Severeid. She looks kind of familiar.
No, but you don't know these people. Stop pretending.
No, I don't know. This also has 2 directors, one of whom is uncredited. So we're in for a real. The
reason I'm excited, John, is that the theme song was performed by Justin Hayward, lead singer of the Moody Blues. So I can't wait.
Interesting. That is
because if there's one thing you want to have in a 1988 film is a theme song by a member of 60s big group, the Moody Blues.
Werewolves in black masses.
This will be terrible. So looking forward to it next week.
God, yeah.
I'm prejudging.
I just what little I've already read about it. This thing is really gonna stink. Yay! So yeah, it's all. We have an interesting run to the finish line here this season. So. Yeah. Before we're closing the season with 2 Phantom of the Opera movies. So it's an interesting time when that's the case. So. We get 2 more sequels and 2 Phantom of the Opera movies, and then we're out of the 80s. So, yeah.
All right.
We'll look forward to that. So, Howling 4 next week here on Meet the Monsters. But that's going to do it for this week's episode. I'm John Campbell.
I'm Brendan Jones.
And remember, there are such things as monsters.
Join me on this one, John.
Yeah.
I'm a vampire!
I'm a vampire! I'm a vampire!